I just wanted to do another quick video showing some of the components and that we've brought down to the community garden, ready for the new aquaponics system. So most of the material here has come from the U-block aquaponics that we built quite a number of years ago, and that's been taken apart and all the components have been brought down here. There's also the existing components from the community garden aquaponics, and I've also been recycling some of the stuff from my place as well. So I've got a lot of pipe work and that. Obviously I'm doing that as an iterative process because I'm building a small hydroponic system and converting most of my aquaponics beds into wicking beds, or using the components, the IBC tanks and that, to make new wicking beds. But I've been bringing most of the 25mm and 50mm pipe work down here because I obviously won't need that anymore if I don't have a large aquaponic system. Anyway, I'll just run through quickly what we've got here, and the stuff that you won't be able to see because it's hidden, like the sump in the ground and that sort of stuff. Here's some of the pipe work. Okay, so I've just left it here in the shed under the shade cloth for now. We've also got some timber down here and along the side, which might be useful for, well, some of this down the side might be useful for making covers for a fish tank and things like that. Most of this pipe work should be able to be reused. Then in the other side of the shed here, we've got the timber frames for supporting the beds, the different grow beds. These ones here are for the media bed and the deep water culture, and then there's plenty of timber here that could be used for building an NFT. And I've also got these pipes from my place. I don't know whether we'll use those. They're not particularly expensive, or just get some new ones, but that's for an NFT system. There's also all of these pumps and that here. Some of them work, some of them don't. The ones that don't work, maybe they're repairable, I'm not sure. There's also pumps that are still part of the existing aquaponics at the community garden. There's one in here with a bit of a backup system, and also others over by the which I'll come to in a moment. Some of those may be reusable. The trouble is they do wear out, these pumps, so one of the things we need to look at is getting some probably better quality mechanical and air pumps if possible, but these could get us started, or at least allow us to do some of the some demonstration stuff, with airlift pumps and digester and things like that. There's various other timber here which may be useful. We've obviously got to get brackets and everything to attach all of the timber frames and that to the concrete, and more timber slats and that we brought down from U-block. So just over here we've got a small tank that I was planning to use for one of the filters, a swirl filter, so one of the solids filters. This large tank here probably won't be used for the aquaponics. I'll probably get rid of that, and same with the small tank that's underneath there. Up here near the existing system, we've got a couple of grow beds, one for gravel and the other for the deep water culture. We've got the existing grow beds here on top of the sump in that area there. There's an airlift pump there that came from my place. There's also a filter here that came from my place. Okay, so again we'll include that in the system. That's the plan. It's just a different type of solids filter. It'll just increase the amount of filtration. Ideally get rid of as much of the solids as possible. There's the old fish tank up the top there, still running. There's a pump running in there, an air pump, and also a water pump circulating the water from the sump down here up into the fish tank, down through the filter, through the grow beds and back into the sump. So we'll be replacing that fish tank and the frame that it's sitting on, because that's just too high. People aren't going to be able to work with that. So that's where the fish tank from my place comes in. So that's a fiberglass tank which is at a reasonable height that students and others will be able to access more easily, but it'll still be far enough off the ground that it should be reasonably safe, you know, if there are small children in the area or something like that. But we'll also cover it, so that'll be part of the risk assessment. Okay, so that's basically the components that we've got here. There's a power supply just here, okay, 240 volts, and there's also a power supply in the shed there, along with you know, another pump and a few other bits and pieces. So that's what we're starting with basically. The idea is to put in a concrete slab here, which will ideally wrap around either end here of the existing concrete slab and sump. Okay, so that it makes it, obviously you need some space for people to be able to access the fish tank and access the sump and so forth. The sump itself, we might put the NFT system on top of that, so there'll be a steel frame. We need to have a steel frame for safety, just to make sure that, you know, people can't fall in there. At the moment there's a hardwood timber frame that I built, and most of it though is covered by these grow beds. What I'm suggesting is we basically recycle these grow beds as wicking beds elsewhere in the garden, and just use the new, or the beds from U-Block. They're much better. So the sump will be exposed, we'll need to have that covered, and then we could potentially build frames on top for an NFT system. The rest of the concrete will extend out from here, okay, so between the sump and the power line, or the power pole, just there, okay, so out here, and should be large enough for these two beds to sit on, and also the filtration system. So we'll have that filter there, we'll have the one I showed you a few moments ago, and we'll also have a system basically to remove the suspended solids. So the two main filters will remove most of the larger solids, the ones that settle out fairly easily, and then there'll be a clarifier which will remove some of the others. Anyway, this concrete slab just needs to be big enough. Basically, you can see the problem. I mean, we've got grass all around here, you know, and it's not level. It sort of slopes down a bit, so we need a level surface for everything to be attached to. We don't want the grow bed sinking into the ground, which is one problem we had up at U-Block, having to replace all the footings and that. And we also need a decent space that people can actually work in. You know, so that the students can work in the space, they can get access to everything, all of the pipe work and so forth. It'll be really easy to see what's going on, and also to work on the system and to have classes in this area. Okay, so I've proposed a size for the concrete slab. Just have to think about it a little bit and make sure it meets all of our needs, or the needs of the school. Right, well that's it. I'll just show you briefly the fish tank that's up at my place. That's the only thing that we haven't brought down here yet, yeah, then it's really just about getting a time frame together for everything to be constructed. You know, the concreting will be the first thing, obviously, and then we can move on from there. So here's the fiberglass fish tank from my place that I'm proposing we use for the new system. As you can see, it's at a much better height for easy access, but also it's high enough off the ground that it's going to be reasonably safe. So I'm taking apart what's left of my old aquaponics system. If there are any other components, pipework and that can be reused, that I don't need for this garden, I'll bring them down to the community garden. For interest, I'm using some of the remaining components for a hydroponics. These flood and drain beds up the top are being converted into wicking beds, and I'm using the remaining IBCs from the old system to make some more wicking beds across the front here.